have a lot more responsibility, I think, than a lot of studios because we don't have in-house producers. We kind of are the managers and producers of the team.
They're really the ones who handle the scheduling and making sure that all of the individual animations and foreground assets and physics assets and whatever else may be necessary for their levels get into the game at the right time and work awesome and have the design specs and everything of that sort.
My main job is sort of corralling the designers into a sort of coherent vision for what the game is going to come out like, and how we translate what we call the active cinematic experience into a gameplay that the player is going to like and be interested in all the time.
I think a game designer's first and most important role is to be an advocate for the player. We're always thinking about the player's experience, really from the very beginning when they become aware of the game, all the way through to when they're putting in their 100th hour in our multiplayer game. We're always thinking about how can we make their experience better, how can we draw them further into the fictional interactive world that we've created, and how can we entertain them and surprise them and delight them.
We're unwilling to settle for anything other than what we consider to be the best possible experience that we can create.
The whole idea of the active cinematic experience, the playable Hollywood blockbuster, only barely made it in. There was like one moment in Uncharted 1 that pretty much everyone picked out as like, that's the bit that we want to do in Uncharted 2. And so Uncharted 2 was, hey, that little moment, that 30 seconds of gameplay, how do we make a game that evokes that the entire time?
Uncharted 2 was an amazing experience, putting that game together, creating all of that new technology, and doing the groundbreaking things that we did with it. There were so many things in Uncharted 2 that we did that had never been done before. In particular, in terms of having characters running around, interacting on an environment that could move. And so I guess in the process of making Uncharted 3, we really took that idea and ran with it.
Don't. Stay down.
We now felt like we had more freedom and time and energy to explore more of the artistic aspects of it. As storytellers, it's really important to us that the viewer is engaged with our characters. What we really put a lot of focus on, especially with Drake, is to convey thought through his body language. When he's in an environment where a tense environment, like we want him to show that. When he's relaxed, we want you to see that. And so we've been able to change the way that he moves based on his environment, based on where he's at in the story. There might be sections where Drake is just completely exhausted, and when you stop moving him, he'll just collapse to the ground, and you kind of pick him back up again, and you feel kind of like, come on, like let's go, it's just a little bit further, we can do this. And it's something that I hope the players appreciate.
Suddenly we have the great majority of the technology that we need to make the type of game that we wanted to make from the beginning. And the question becomes, well, where do we go from here? Immediately, we thought about desert, sand. Sand is a very big challenge technologically. It flows and moves and mounds and changes and shifts like water, but also in a more viscous way. So there are all sorts of different gameplay ideas that came from that.
I see him!
If we could do anything at all that we wanted to do with the same kind of technology, what could we do? And that's what's led us to think of insane things like a whole level which turns, through 90 degrees at key stages of the gameplay on the sinking cruise ship.
No!
The cruise ship is one of the most technologically advanced levels I've ever worked on, and certainly I think any other company's worked on. Like the cruise ship's being driven by a real-time wave ocean simulation that drives the animation of the ship, so it never cycles the same way twice. It feels different every time you play it.
When I started the cruise ship, I was actually planning on faking most of that with animation. But then we have this awesome guy, Carlos Gonzalez here, and he was like, why would you do that? Why would you fake it with an animation when we can make you a fully procedural ocean?
Nice day for a boat ride.
That's one of the other really funny things about Naughty Dog is that I asked for a simpler feature, and Carlos gave me a real-time, fully procedural ocean. That's how Naughty Dog rolls.
The other sort of big thing that we try to do is to make sure that our multiplayer this time felt much more diverse and interesting, and sort of make it a big ticket item.
So what does Uncharted mean, right? Like, it's not only like this big cinematic experience, right? It's also about like your comrades, right? Like the people who you're working with all the time, right? And so we looked at that and like, well, what do we do about that? Okay, well, let's come up with the buddy system. And in single player, we have this cargo plane, and it's really cool sequence in single player. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And I saw that, and I went to Evan Wells, and I said, Evan, we need to use that in a multiplayer map. I'm thinking like the plane's gonna come down this runway, there's gonna be moving trucks around the plane, you're gonna be jumping plane to plane to truck to plane. It's gonna be epic, it's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be incredible. It was one of the most hardest things I've done in my entire life.
I saw that and I was like, I thought about all the people that went into making that, the animators and the foreground artists, and Kurt just sitting there and hooking everything up in all the different possible ways it could work. And I was like, we're crazy. So many weeks of work went into less than a 30-second sequence. You know, I look at the stuff that we do, and I can't believe how much love each individual person puts into the stuff that they're responsible for.
I think that kind of attention to detail is really important for a number of different reasons, but the most important reason is that people recognize it and they love it.
It's those moments that make a Naughty Dog game different. So when you ask why are we passionate about what we do, it's because we're given the opportunity to do this, and we're surrounded by people who can do it and who want to do it.
We have an incredible amount of resources at our disposal, but we think so much bigger than what we have, that there's always something that's pushing us to go a little bit further.
The way the studio gets things done is because people care. And the mentality of the company is, if we see you care so much, then we'll let you go and go take care of it. And I think that's really what makes the company come together.